Latin 1 in a nutshell, verbs. There's a few basic terms we got to use in this section, so we'll define those before we move any further. And the first is person, and there's three basic persons. You've talked about them in literature: first person, second person, third person. Okay? Number is just going to mean singular or plural, and those two always go together to give us 6 possibilities. First person singular, which is I; second singular, you; third singular, he, she, or it; first plural is we; second plural is you, y'all, yous guys, yins, wherever you're from; and then third plural is they. When we talk about verbs, voice is just going to refer to the relationship between the action and the subject. For right now, for Latin 1, we're only going to use active, so don't worry too much about that. And the same as mood. Latin has 2 of them, indicative or subjunctive, but Latin 1, we only use the indicative mood. Alright. When we look at a vocab entry for verbs, there are 5 parts. We're really creative on the names. They're called first principal part, second principal part, third principal part, fourth principal part, and then the English translation. Okay? So, why 4 principal parts? Well, the first principal part is the first person, singular, present, active, indicative form of the verb. That's a really fancy way of saying that it means I am doing it. Okay? So we had our verb amo, amare, amavi, amatus means to love. So amo means I am loving or I love. Second principal part is the present active infinitive. That means it's going to mean to do whatever the verb is. The second principal part, amare, means to love. The third principal part is the perfect active first person singular. It just means I loved. Amawi, I loved. The fourth principal part represents the perfect passive participle. You need to learn this form, you need to know what it is, but it doesn't actually get used in Latin 1. It becomes very important in Latin 2. Alright, conjugations. Conjugation is just a group of verbs that follow a similar pattern, and Latin has 4.5 of them. Okay? You can identify the conjugation by looking at the first 2 principal parts. If they end O and ARE, then that verb is first conjugation. If they are EO, then long ERE, the verb is second conjugation. If it's O and short ERE, the verb is third. IO, short ERE, the verb is what we call third IO. This is that half conjugation we mentioned here. And then if it's IO, IRE, that verb is fourth conjugation. So let's look at our tenses. First is present tense. To conjugate a verb in the present tense, there are 3 steps. First, you find the stem. You do that by removing a vowel, an R, and an E from the second principal part. Your second principal part will always end ARE, ERE, long ERE, short ERE, or IRE. Those are the only possibilities. Then you'll add a join vowel. The join vowel, if you removed an ARE, is A. If you removed a long ERE, it's E. If you removed a short ERE, it's an I, but once it's a U. And we'll talk about why in a little while. If you remove a short ERE, IO, then it's an I and an IU. Again, we'll talk about the IU in a bit. And if you removed an IRE, it's also I and IU. Then you'll add an ending. The possible endings are O if you mean I, S for you, T for he, she, or it, MUS for we, TIS for y'all, and NT for they. So, let's copy down a few verbs that we can work with over the next few pages. All right? The verbs you need: laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus, which means to praise. Dokeo, docere, dokui, doctus, which means to teach. Mito, mittere, misi, misus, to send. Capeo, capere, kepi, captus, to seize. And audio, audire, audivi, auditus, meaning to hear. All right, so let's start with the first one. Okay, we're doing laudo, laudare. First thing is we remove the vowel, the R, and the E from the second principal part. then we add the join vowel, then we add the ending. So laudare minus are gives us loud. The join vowel for that is an a, gives us lauda, and then we add our ending. When we add the endings, we get a chart that looks like this. Laudo, laudas, laudat, laudamos, laudatus, laudat. Now, you'll notice the a is missing here. In first conjugation and third conjugation, we're going to get rid of that join vowel when we add an o. Now, it's really easy to remember because this form in this box is always the same as your first principal part. Okay, second conjugation. Same process. We start with monere. We're going to remove a long ere. We're going to add the join vowel, and then we're going to add our endings. So we get moneo, mones, monet, monemus, monetus, monet. Third conjugation, same pattern. Mitere minus ere plus our join vowel plus our endings. Mito, remember I said a minute ago that in first and third we lose that join vowel before an o, and you can remember it because this was your first principal part. Mitis, mitit, mitimus, mititis, mitunt. Remember we had that alternate join vowel? It was I/U. Before an NT, you're going to use the U ending instead of the I. Third IO, same pattern. Okay, the steps are the same. Capio, capis, capit, capimus, capitis. Here again, we get that IU before an NT. It's an I everywhere else, and then an IU here. And fourth conjugation, same pattern. Audio, audis, audit, audimus, auditus, audiunt. Okay? That's the present tense. How do you translate present tense? The default translation of present tense is going to be MR is verbing or verb verbs. What do I mean? Okay? If we're doing laudo, laudare, I am praising, you are praising, he, she, it is praising, we are praising, y'all are praising, they are praising, or I praise, you praise, he, she, it praises, we praise, y'all praise, they praise. Doesn't matter which one you use. It means the exact same thing in English. All right, so the imperfect tense. Very similar to present tense, just a few minor differences. There's 4 steps instead of 3. Define the stem. It's exactly the same as the present tense. We add a join vowel. These are slightly different. They're A, E, E, I, E, I, E. Here's the big difference. We add a tense indicator, ba. That's going to tell us that we're in the imperfect. And then our ending's also a tiny bit different, MST, MUS, TIS, NT. So let's do those same verbs that we just did a minute ago, and let's walk through the imperfect. Yeah, our steps are pretty much the same. Laudare minus are plus a join vowel plus a tense syllable and then an ending. Gives us laudabam, laudabas, laudabat, laudabamos, laudabatis, laudabant. Okay, for second conjugation, similar thing. We get monebam, monebas, monebat, monebamos, monebatis, monebant. For third, we get the same pattern. Mitere, minus ere, plus join vowel, plus ba. Mitebam, mitebas, mitebat, mitebamus, mitebatis, mitebant. Notice we don't have to worry about an alternate join vowel here. It's the same every time. Third IO, minus ere, plus our join vowel, plus our tense indicator, plus our endings. Capiebam, capiebas, capiebat, capiebamus, capiebatis, capiebant. And then fourth conjugation, same pattern. Minus the ire, plus the ie, plus the ba, plus the endings. So audiebam, audiebas, audiebat, audiebamus, audiebatis, and audiebat. Okay, so how do you translate the imperfect? You're going to translate it as was or were verbing. So again, if we do praise, it's going to be I was praising, you were praising, he, she, it was praising, we were praising, y'all were praising, they were praising. All right, so that's the present and the imperfect tense in Latin.